On behalf of the Banerjee family, I want to welcome you all today and to thank you for being part of this gathering to commemorate the life of Lina Banerjee. We would like today to be both a solemn occasion to say our farewells to Lina, but also a celebration of her wonderful life journey. I'm Shravani Basu. I knew Lina from when I was a year old. Probably she knew me before I really knew her. Our parents were friends, colleagues and neighbors in Dhaka in the early 60s. Over the years, our families kept in touch, and when I moved to London, Lina became like a mother to me. She was the one I could lean on. She was always there for me with her gentle smile, the smile all of you are so familiar with. I called her Kakima, the Bengali word for auntie. Kakima was there when my daughters were born. She fed me, looked after me, and did everything for me that a mother does. She taught me to cook. Her quick recipe for fish with Coleman's English mustard was a smash hit, and I have passed it down over the generations. I would not have survived my early years in London without Lina and her husband, Shashanko, who I call Kaku. They have been like my parents to me for over 35 years. So I am hopefully doing the role of a daughter today. The order of service today will begin with the priest's blessings, followed by speeches and tributes from her sons, her loving husband, a close family friend, and finally, her 4 grandchildren. Let me first invite the priest, Dr. Hirok Haldar, to initiate the proceedings with some Sanskrit prayers. I think you're speaking from there.
What's your name, did you say?
Shravani.
Thank you, Shravani. I am Dr. Hirok Haldar. We just did the last rite at the funeral home. Then we came here. I am a friend of friends of Banerjee family. I'll just do one slok from Gita. Gita is the epic story, is our holy book of our Hindu religion. Gita is actually the lessons given to Arjuna by Lord Krishna. That's what his Gita is about, and it says, his teaching, that's the Lord's teaching to Arjuna in explaining the fundamental distinction between the temporary material body and the eternal spiritual soul. The Lord explains the process of transmigration, the nature of selfless service to the Supreme, and the characteristics of self-realization. And this is actually all the teachings of Bhagavad Gita to Arjuna. Now I'll read it. So, because it's sloka, it says the flesh is subjected to death, but the soul remains forever. Something over a flesh, and it is indestructible and is everlasting. It does not die. The realization of mortality of flesh as immortality of spirit, realized self, do not mourn over anybody's death. Now, the sloka says, Tama asako satatamo karyana karmo samakara asato le acharmano karmo parma aparoti pusustako. It means always do your duty without any attachment For if anybody does his or her work without attachment, attains to the highest perfection. Is also attained by work done without attachment and guided by a spirit of surrender to Almighty Lord Krishna. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Let me introduce now Lina's sons, Abhijit and Ashok Banerjee.
Mamuni, that is what my brother and I called our mother. It frequently became shortened to Mani, but she had many names and many sides to her life story. Lina was her formal name, and the name by which many of you will have known her. Her dark name, which is what many Bengalis have as their pet name, used endearingly in the home environment, was Belu. She was also Bodhi, Didibhai, Jetima, Kakima, Pishimoni, Mashi, Mashimoni, Thakuma, and many more. Born Lina Bhattacharya on February 4th, 1937, in Kolkata, India, the youngest daughter of Nirupama and Gopal Chandra Bhattacharya, a magistrate. She grew up with her elder sister, Mridula Roy, whom my brother and I lovingly called Mom, and older brother, Nikhilesh Chatterjee, in the environment of a very typical middle-class Bengali family. She studied history and Bengali medium in Calcutta University, but immediately upon graduation decided to get married to a rather handsome, long-nosed, and mischievously charming young man by the name of Shashank Banerjee. Having only ever seen photos of each other before the day of their wedding, it nonetheless was enough to bind these two young people for a life of love and adventure. They married in 1960, in May, and had their first child, Ashok, Daknam Rintu, the following year. Their adventures really began at that point. Within a few months, she and Shashanka moved to New Delhi, her first real journey outside her home city, and one she was enormously keen to pursue. But then, a year later, tragedy struck when her father-in-law, Sushil Kumar Banerjee, the chief of police of Hyderabad, passed away from a heart attack at the age of 53. The father of 9 was Shashanka as the eldest, and the only one to have completed his university education at that point, and earning a meager salary with the Indian security services. Sushil's demise left the rest of the Banerjee family in desperate straits. With such a crisis facing the entire family, Lina stepped up by asking Shashanka to allocate a significant proportion of his salary for the rest of his family. This included his mother and 8 young siblings, the youngest of whom was only 2 years old. Lina also sold her wedding jewelry to provide some additional funds for their education and future dowries. All of a sudden, at the tender age of 24, she had become the matriarch of a close-knit family of 10. With the knowledge that the financial security of the family was still precarious and now wholly dependent upon the two of them, Lina encouraged Shashanka to accept a foreign service posting offered by the Indian government to Dhaka, the capital of what was then East Pakistan, in 1963. This posting allowed the young couple to send home their full salary while they made do on a slim government stipend. In Dhaka, Lina took to her new role as the wife of an Indian diplomat like a duck to water. The embassy compound provided a wonderful social network amongst the many friends she made there. One couple in particular, Chitto and Gauri Basu, became lifelong friends. Indeed, their 3 daughters, Nupur, Jhumur, and Shoma, became close friends with Lina's 2 sons, and their 3 granddaughters with Lina's 4 grandchildren. In 1964, her second son, Abhijit Daknam Bhattacharya, was born.
But soon, the drumbeat of war began, and by 1965, she found herself carrying her 2 young children on an emergency evacuation bus taking her from Pakistan back to India. The following year, she moved with the family to Baghdad in Iraq, and again surrounded herself with a wonderful embassy social network. Returning briefly to New Delhi in 1969 in a new apartment in Western Delhi, which became the family home for so many in the household, many of whom are watching on the live stream today, she packed up the household again a year later and moved to London in September 1970. The change of continent was quite dramatic, and with it came her decision to enter the world of employment, initially at a landmark Indian handicrafts business called India Craft on Regent Street. Once again, her social network of the High Commission became like a family, second family to her, and in particular, she became very close to 4 families that decided to call themselves the Gang of 4. Alongside the Banerjees were the Gangulis, the Midhas, the Sahanis, and then, as honorary members, the Mukherjees. The camaraderie she built with them all continued for the rest of her life. In 1975, at the age of 38, Lina, with her family, returned to India, but within 6 months, they relocated back to London, this time without any Indian government connection, not officially at any rate. Their lives started afresh, with both Lina and Shashanka having to embark on brand new careers. Lina joined various Indian shipping companies and then eventually moved to the civil service, joining the DHSS as it was then known, and in 1985, at the young age of 48, she decided to retire. Over the last 40 years, she has not only been a wonderful wife and an exemplary mother, she was also a loving mother-in-law to Rima and to Zerna, and most especially a cuddly grandmother to Arjun, Niloy, Nikhil, and Rihanna. But these last few decades also saw her develop an extensive circle of friends, mostly from the Bengali community in northwest London, and together they would go on many travels around the world. She was supported by so many friends here, some of whom have passed away before her, and others who are with us today to say their farewells to her. She loved singing Bengali songs, reading Bengali stories, and was an outrageously good cook and a host. And although she looked very innocent to many, she had a twinkle in her eye and a sense of naughtiness that I will always remember her by. She was a mother not just to the 2 of us, but also to all my father's brothers and sisters who look upon her with enormous love and gratitude for the sacrifices she made for them to help them set up in their lives. In the last few years, her health inevitably began to decline and her kidneys began to give up. She had the great fortune of being looked after by 4 lovely young ladies, led by Jagruti, who cared for her incredibly well and made her life so much more comfortable at the end. And after 2 years of becoming increasingly homebound and with fierce resistance to avoid going to any hospital, she eventually passed away peacefully at home in the presence of her loving husband, her 2 sons, and her daughters-in-law. Her loving grandchildren are all here, and I know that they, indeed all of you, and so many around India and elsewhere, were the joy of her life lived to the full. What more can one ask?
Thank you. Her loving husband, Shashanko Shekhar Banerjee, in lieu of a speech, has dedicated this love song to Lina. Written by Rabindranath Tagore, he often sang it to her, although she would usually stop him early on and sing the rest herself. She had a beautiful singing voice in her younger days. Today, he gets to dedicate it without interruption. Beautiful. Now, may I ask Shotin Borua to come up? Oh, sorry, just one moment.
Just before we do that,
Okay.
my father wanted to express, as he comes up, please come up. My father wanted to express in one sentence the meaning of that song and the spirit of the song. What I desired from the bottom of my heart, O God, you have given that to me as a gift. I could not have asked for anything more from you. Thank you.
That was beautiful. Thank you. Now, may I ask Shotin Borua to come up and say a few words on behalf of the Bengali dramatists, an association of local Bengalis who put together almost 50 theatre productions, where Lina was a keen member and Shashanko was the chairman. Shotin.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Shotin Borua, and I'm honored to speak at the funeral of our good friend, Lina Banerjee. Lina and Shashanko have been good friends of mine and my late wife, Jolly Borua, for a long, long time. We know each other through our drama group. Dramatist, who as Shashanko is the president, and I have been the drama director for over 40 years. Lina was such a wonderful friend, always so generous, kind and gentle, and was very good friends with my late wife. They would talk on the phone often, and we visited each other's houses regularly for tasty dinners. I am so sad that Lina is no longer with us, and I pass on our condolences to my good friend Shashanko, their family, Ashok, Rima, Abhijit, Jarna, and their beloved grandchildren, Arjun, Rihanna, Niloy, and Nikhil. I end this eulogy with a poem I wrote. শেষারদে শিউলি ফুটবে বোধনের কলাবউ আসবে শুধু সেই ভোরে, আমি কোথাকে জানি, রেখো না আমায় মনে রেখো না, দেখো যদি ভুলে যেতে পারো। একদিন সব কথা শেষ হয়, সব ব্যথার কিছুদিন রেশ রয়। ভালোবাসা চিরদিন থাকে না, কেউ প্রিয় নাম চিরতরে ডাকে না। সুদূর আকাশ যার পাখনায়, তারে কি মাটির বুকে রাখা যায়? পুজো শেষে বিসর্জন আসবে, কিছু কিছু চাঁদমালা ভাসবে, শুধু সেই রাতে আমি কোথাকে জানি, রেখো না আমায় মনে রেখো না, দেখো যদি ভুলে যেতে পারো। শেষারদে শিউলি ফুটবে, বোধনের কলাবউ আসবে, শুধু সেই ভোরে আমি কোথা কে জানি, রেখো না আমায় মনে রেখো না, দেখো যদি ভুলে যেতে পারো, দেখো যদি ভুলে যেতে পারো। থ্যাংক ইউ অল।
Thank you. That was so beautiful. Now may I ask her beloved grandchildren to share their memories. Arjun, Niloy, Nikhil and Rihanna, please come up.
Thank you everyone for being here. It's a testament to what an extraordinary person my Takuma was, that so many people have come to pay their respects to her. To start with the obvious, she was an incredible person. When I think of her life, the main theme that I come to was selflessness and duty towards others. She derived immense joy from being of service to others, which is an extraordinary virtue. Whenever I was visiting, she and my beloved grandfather would make an enormous fuss about preparing the house for us, making plans for us, and especially in determining what we would eat. During her life, she experienced terrible hardship regarding family and financial difficulties, but she never complained or felt sorry for herself. And surely one of the great accomplishments of her life was enduring listening to my grandfather telling the same jokes and stories for decades on end, all while putting on a brave face. I aspire greatly to have that amount of patience and grace. My Takuma lived a life of tremendous dignity. She weathered family problems, economic hardships, and in her final years, failing health. But she refused to feel sorry for herself. She felt such tremendous love for her family, and there was no sacrifice that she wouldn't make for those that she loved. Even in her last days, her thoughts were always for the well-being of her children and her grandchildren. I was fortunate enough to be visiting only a few weeks ago, so I was able to say goodbye to her and tell her everything that I wanted to say to her. I'm not a terribly emotive person, but I'm very, very grateful that I was able to tell her how much I loved her. And even in that fog of pain and slipping consciousness, she mustered all of her energy to tell me how much she loved me and how much she wished and prayed for my happiness. In all honesty, I don't think that I have her selflessness, but I will try my very hardest in my life to live up to her example. Thank you.
Hi everyone, thank you for being here. You've heard about some of her traits in previous speeches, like her dry sense of humor. She recently met my girlfriend Anna while I was, and still am, on a brief stint of unemployment. She was so taken with her, she asked very directly why she would want to be with, quote, an unemployed boy. Or how she would consistently say Nikhil was her favorite grandchild, a running joke in the family. She had a lovely voice. Many of you have heard her sing Rabindra Sangeet, even in the last few months. Being able to play them today, I think is perfect. And her culinary excellence, too, in a family filled with good cooks. It's the kind of thing you take for granted until you're trying to make chicken curry yourself, and you think just because they sound similar, you can replace done patta with curry patta, and you end up... And I can see these traits reflected in her children and her grandchildren. Rihanna and Nikhil have lovely voices. Arjun and Nikhil are culinary experts, and me and Nikhil are the funny ones. I think I see now why Nikhil is the favorite. Thank you to everyone who was able to spend time with her towards the end, especially. In the evening of her life, as Dadu refers to it, loneliness can be as hard to manage as kidney failure. And many of you here, especially Dadu and Baba, helped her fight that familiar foe. You kept her company at home. You celebrated the holidays with her, sang with her, showed her photos of past holidays and the Google Street views of where she grew up. All these things allowed her to experience near the end, all the things allowed her new experiences near the end to cap off a life very well lived. And I'm so grateful to everyone here for that. She will be greatly missed, but not forgotten.
So as you've all heard already, and I'm sure you'll hear again, I'm Nikhil, Takuma's favourite grandchild. I always questioned why that was the case. I was not the best looking, Arjun, nor the smartest, Niloy, nor the one that did what Indian grandmothers consider the big three, become a doctor, get married, and never even entertain the idea of growing a beard. Rihanna? Perhaps it was because I was best at faking that I was asleep every time Takuma would come in to check on us during our afternoon naps. I used to think she made us take these naps because she wanted a brief respite from the chaos of being a grandmother to the four of us. But as I got older, it became clear that it was entirely out of love for us and care for our well-being. It was this love for her family that truly represented Takuma, and I think what kept her going in her twilight years, despite announcing at least once a year that that year would be, in fact, her final year. As sad as I am, and as we all are, that this was the year that her prediction finally came true, I am deeply grateful that we got so many years, months, weeks, and days more than we expected with her. And I know that everyone in this room feels the same way. I wanted to leave you all with a few thoughts that came from a conversation I had with a friend this week about loss. There will be times in the coming days, weeks, months, and years where grief will appear out of nowhere. It will surprise you when it does, and it will often happen at the most inconvenient of times. It will catch in your throat or in the corner of your eye, and it will feel like hurt. But what it is love. Love for Takuma, love for her cardigans and her grippy socks, for her food, her laughter, her smile, and the twinkle in her eyes every time Baba would suggest getting a fillet of fish from McDonald's. And it is this love that will keep her with us for many more years to come, because although she's gone, she will always be with us.
Hello, everyone. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Rihanna, and I am the youngest grandchild in the Banerjee family clan. I want to thank you all for being here to honor my wonderful grandmother, my sweet Takuma. If you were lucky enough to know her well, then you know what a warm and graceful person she was, a woman whose very presence felt like love. It's difficult to imagine a life without her signature rose scent, or the fact that you could always hear her coming from the jingle of her bangles and the swishing of her sari, or how she would always unapologetically admit that Nikhil was her favorite grandchild, or how she would blatantly humble Dadu every time he got one of his stories wrong, or the way she'd blush when Dadu tells the story of her having one too many glasses of champagne when they were invited for dinner with the Queen. And though she was a petite woman, Takuma had an enormous gravitational pull that brought people together. For example, last summer, Takuma woke up one morning and decreed that she was going to pass away that week. And when a woman in her 80s says that, you definitely do not take it lightly. So the Banerjee family clan did what they do best and dropped everything to rush to her side. Some of us were able to fly in for a few weeks, and some of us, like my husband and I, made a quick 24-hour weekend trip to London to form memories that will last a lifetime. Takuma immediately perked up with us all around, and now, as I think back to that weekend, I think that maybe she was just fed up with all of us having very busy schedules, and this was her clever way to bring us all together. And even after her passing, she is still doing just that, bringing us all together to celebrate her warmth and kindness, and reminding us that there is nothing as important as the bond that we have with family. In the days to come, I know that the grief for Takuma will come in waves, and when those emotions rise, I want to remind each of us, myself included, that the grief we feel is in a way our final act of love for her. Grief and love are two sides of the same coin, and when we can no longer express our love directly, our hearts transform that feeling into grief. And for me, the grief I feel is a reflection of the gratitude I feel to have known her, to have shared precious moments with her, and to carry forward the values that she held close. So my dear Takuma, you and Dadu have always called me your angel without wings. And today I get to pass that title to you, as you have become my angel with wings. I will carry your memory in my heart always, and I hope that wherever you are, you're enjoying a warm cup of tea, a chocolate croissant, and family all around you. I cannot wait to see your beautiful smile again one day.
Thank you all. All you kids have done your grandma proud today. Now, as we come to the end of this service and we say our final goodbyes, we will play two of Lina's favorite songs. The first captures the happiness she always carried with her, most evident in her beautiful smile. The second captures her determination to do things her way. She was both incredibly loving and strong. Afterwards, the close family will proceed to the cremation room and then head outside ready to greet you. Once the family are ready outside, you'll be called to join them. Just a reminder, we'll be hosting a simple lunch straight afterwards at the Rani restaurant in Finchley. It's a 5-minute drive away, and you have the instructions and directions on your cards. But first, let us have a minute's silence to pay our final respects. So please, all rise.
She Please follow me. We'll meet the family.